We're going to talk about a lot of things today with these amazing women, but we're also not going to talk about some things. And so what I told the panelists is, they gave me a microphone and put me in charge, which, the decision-making is clearly not our strong point. There's some things we're not going to talk about. One is what it's like to be a woman. And the reason is, we all know the answer to that is everything about being a woman is fan-freaking-tastic. So we don't have to explain it. And the other is, one of the things that you're going to get on the panel today is a woman's perspective. So that's by default. Second thing we're not going to talk about is how we all manage our lives and how we do it all. Everybody got up today, you got dressed, you came here. Congratulations, you were doing it all. Okay, we're all, fighting different battles, and it just seems like men don't get asked those questions of how do you manage all of that? Like, how are you a mom and a businesswoman? You do. You just get up and do what we all have to do, right? So anyway, we're going to have a panel just talking about business strategy. And what I hope you get from this today, and what I always get when I come to panels and talks like this, is maybe that one little seed of, I'm just whatever it takes to kind of get my business to the next level. And so that's what we're going to get from these women today, is how they got where they are, which is very, very successful, and some of the things they learned along the way, and then some of those secrets that they're going to share with us today. Okay, cool? We're not going to talk about what it's like to be a woman or manage our families. Okay. All right, so here we go. We're going to start off. And the first thing we're going to talk about is why you guys started the companies you did, so introduce yourselves, and then also why did you start the companies you started? And I'll start with you and we'll go down.
Hello, I'm Selena Tio. I'm a chef, restaurateur, entrepreneur. I do minor HVAC stuff and climb on roofs and fix my hood when it goes down on a Saturday at 8, because it never goes down on a Monday at 3, And I basically started my business branching off. I moved to Kansas City being the chef at the American restaurant, and I was the executive chef there for 7 years. And I decided to go out on my own because I needed to, the time was right. I had won all my awards and did what I wanted to do as a chef, nationally recognized and all that, and I needed to ride that wave. And so that was at the absolute worst economic time. I left my cushy, well-paying job and went out and opened my own place just to ride that wave. In a nutshell. Oh, you have.
And she's a celebrity, too. Yes. She's a celebrity chef. I'll throw that in there for you. Hi, my name's Diana Shalu Lacerte. I own a company called Hitch Fit, and I own it with my husband, Micah, and we own personal training gyms, and then we also do online personal training globally. We've been in business since we started in the recession, too, in 2008, 2009. And the reason we started it was just because we wanted to help as many people as possible get to a great place and enjoy their lives and be the healthiest and fittest versions of themselves, but also just because I wanted to wake up every single day and absolutely love what I was doing. And I'd been a personal trainer for a long time, and so it was just taking something we were really passionate about and teaching others how to, make healthy changes and transform. And so, it's been an amazing journey, but that's what we get to do, is help a lot of people and wake up and love what we do. So I think that's most important.
Well, that's awesome. These two young ones that just obviously had to admit when they started in the recession. John and I started in the 80s. So they reminded me of that out in the hallway with all the phones there. When we went back to what our first phone was, and John and I had a bag phone in the truck. So I see some of you shaking your head. Thank God I'm among friends. Okay, so the reason why we started, it was not because lawn care. I'm Vic Cundiff, and we own Weed Man, and I started that with my husband in 1987, and it was not Vic Cundiff's idea to have a lawn care service. It was Big John. Met him in college. Said, "What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to own my own lawn service." And so we finished school, we're working diligently, and one day I looked at him and I said, you know what, my degree was more into finance and computer programming, that kind of thing. So I said, if we're going to do this crazy thing, we need to do it while we don't have anything to lose, and let's start this. So this was, John always wanted to own his own lawn care service. He started off his career in life working with George Toma out at the Royals and the Chief Stadiums. So that's kind of how I ended up getting involved in this entrepreneurism, and it has been the most awesome thing that I think we've ever done. It's been a godsend that we could do this together and still be married after 35 years.
Well, to follow that up. So I started in the recession too, which I think is a good segue to. It takes a long time to
Thank
build
God
a successful
for CoverGirl,
company.
because there's some on here.
But I think, even though ours was one recession ago, it's really important because that was a while ago, right? In 2008 and 2007. It takes a long time to build a successful company. And I think that sometimes we hear out in the world that someone raised a big round of funding and 3 years later they sold for $100 million, and that's like the metric. And that's really not how it works, at least not for me. Maybe I'm not that lucky. Okay, ladies, let's see. At what point in your business did you reach that turning point between just trying to make it to the next day to, okay, we have a viable business? Do you remember that turning point where you're like, okay, now I'm managing a company and not just trying to survive?
I will jump in here and say that I was 23 and John was 26 when we started this, and I really can't say that we ever thought about our company being viable or not. We were young and just making things happen, and where this question hit home for me was there was a day when you sit in something like this, and I was on your side of the fence, and I'm listening to how many successful businesses are started and fail before entrepreneurs become super successful. And we looked at each other and we're like, wow, I'm glad we didn't know any of those statistics when we started because we may not have done this. So as far as having a turning point, no, I think at that point in time we looked at each other and we said, we made it, and here we are, and there's no turning back.
I would say, yeah, there was never a point where I didn't think that Hitch Fit would be viable. Like when we started, I think we both were so passionate about it, and we were living in an attic, and we were like, yes, we're doing this, and it didn't matter what it was going to take for us to be successful. We were about 6 or 7 months in when we had too much of a client load, so we had to start getting other trainers to come in and teaching them our system. So I think that was the point we knew we had something that was a little bigger than what we thought it would be. And that was, we started in February of 2009, and I think it was like November of 2009 that we started having to bring other trainers in to just be able to handle the leads that were coming in.
In the restaurant business, I don't take a single day for granted that I'm open, so to decide whether or not it's viable is kind of a strange question. I mean, in the news in the past week, I think 10 restaurants closed. Like, it's nuts out there. So if you're in this business, don't take a single day for granted. That is the lesson. But I would say it really hit home probably 2 years after having opened to Julian, which opened September of 2009. Within 2 years, I had all of my business loans and my maxed out credit cards totally paid off, and I was debt-free there. That is pretty viable, so I'll say that.
It's also, I think, worthy to note from your answers that mentally you weren't thinking about how it wouldn't be viable, right? So sometimes, a lot of this, not sometimes, this is a mental game. Business is a sport, like anything else. And so getting your head right to succeed and not even thinking about, your contingency plans or what's going to happen when you can't pay off the credit cards in 2 years, it's important to get your head right too. Okay, which brings me to our next question, which is a good segue, Diana, to what you said, is that once your business reaches a certain point, depending on, of course, the kind of business you're running, what's that first thing you outsource? Usually it's the thing you hate doing the most every day. But what is the first thing you outsourced and hired someone else to do?
I actually didn't. I kept taking more and more things on because part of being a business owner and entrepreneur for me is the learning curve. I love learning new things, and if I stop doing that, then that's where it's not good. So for me, I kept taking more things on. Like, for example, I do all my own bookkeeping, but I have a legit bookkeeper reconcile all the books at the end of the month, with the bank statements, all that, and then it goes to obviously a real accountant to do taxes. But I do all my own bookkeeping.
Me too.
I mean,
because I want to know where it's going. You
and
want to
like-
know where it's going, right?
yeah, and if somebody else is writing the check on your behalf, you just don't know. So I outsourced less the further on I was in my business.
And is that, I'm going to stick with you for just a second on that, because that's an interesting kind of segue as being an entrepreneur, is that you have to understand how every aspect of your business works. This isn't a growth stage company. This isn't a large corporation. And if you don't, and you hire someone to do that, you aren't in an advantage position of knowing how well that job is being performed if you haven't actually been in the trenches doing it, whether it's your social media or your bookkeeping or your anything else. So I think that's a really good answer and way of looking at it.
Well, as an example, when I had my HVAC went out, but the big unit, the guy said, all right, I changed the filter, I changed the motor, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, all right, well, take me on the roof and show me. He's like, what? I said, well, I don't know if you actually changed the motor, so I want to see the new motor in there. And so if you don't know, somebody could just take advantage of you. So all those kind of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to do the HVAC stuff. So.
I can troubleshoot and then call somebody and
I'll
say,
call
this
you.
is what I think needs to happen.
Good.
So it cuts down an hour of their
Okay.
time.
Selena's coming over, so it better be good. Answering phones. That was the
So the
first
admin
thing.
kind of day-to-day that's keeping you
Yes.
busy but not giving you profit necessarily.
Yes, because we've had the same guy that answers the Hitch Fit phone for about the last 9 years, and he's amazing. He's one of our best friends, so he really can speak, and he loves talking to people, and he'll spend 30, 45 minutes on the phone with a person and just sharing, listening to their stories and sharing. And it used to be Micah and I doing that, and then it just really got to a point that we had to have someone that could spend that time and listen to people and really figure out what the best fit was going to be for them. But that would be really time consuming in our day. So he answers the phones.
Can I jump in and say those kind of tasks that you do outsource, it's super important that whoever's there is exemplifies your brand, and people get the same I don't know, touchy-feely whatever as if they spoke to you.
Yeah.
So ours was, I outsourced our accounting as far as not bookkeeping, but the accounting, and found a wonderful accountant that has walked us through all of the changes through our business from start to where we are today. I would have liked to have said that we outsourced our IT. But when we started, all of our books were on ledgers because we didn't have a computer for the first 3 years that we were in business, because back then computers were not often had by individuals. So IT was something that we outsourced many, many, many years later.
The outsourcing question too is at some point you have to work on your business and not in your business, and that's something I'm sure everybody's heard, but it's easier said than done, right? Because you're used to being in the trenches with your business. And so that first thing that you outsource, and the reason I asked the question is it's kind of that first transition to then working on your business instead of working in it, and managing your time appropriately to the things that are going to drive your revenue and sustainability.
That is a huge quote that anybody that is in business for themselves needs to think about often, because your day-to-day has to get done, but if you don't keep in mind that, I'm working in my business today and not on it, tomorrow is going to be hard-pressed to come. So definitely that is something to keep in mind.
Which we just talked about, because I had to be in my business because I lost a key person for the last 3 weeks. So now it's like, come December 1st, when all the shifts are covered, I'm going to be having to plug away and catch up.
And you were running the line, right?
Yeah. I was actually physically on the line cooking everybody's food. So that's not normal. But I'm always there, but I'm not on the line.
Right. Okay, so next question, ladies. So, was there ever a point in time, so in my world sometimes we call this pivoting, I like to call it running a business, whatever. Was there ever a point where you had to take a different direction? Sometimes we're going and we're rowing along and this is the business plan that we set up. Sometimes it doesn't work the way we expect it. Did you ever have to take a right or left turn sharply? else?
I did. When I opened the Belfry, that opened in 2014, beginning of 2014. I was originally, my intention was for it to be an all-day tavern, because there's a place in Chicago called the Map Room, which is great. It's open at 7 o'clock in the morning, and it turns into a bar, but has coffee and pastries during the day. And so my intention was, because I had a parking lot, people going downtown on their way from out south would just be able to have this convenient stop along the way. Obviously, that was viable because Messenger opened up, and they're doing that exactly. But at the time, I had it open probably, I plugged away for a year doing that. And then I said, I'm just not willing to waste the labor in this. I'm going to make up that revenue another way.
So it was a cost. So like, how did you know that? Because you weren't making the revenue.
Because I wasn't making the revenue, and I'm paying more in labor just to be there. And because you could never predict, what's going to possess somebody to drive over across Truman to come to lunch or walk there.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a lot of things that we've tried, and then if that direction just was not working out, we've had to kind of pivot back. I think one thing that comes to mind, like early on, we had one gym location, and then we had a Gold's Gym actually come and say, hey, can you take over the personal training in the gym? And we were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And it wasn't a great idea. But we found that, we were probably 8 or 9 months in and found out it was just more people were coming in and they weren't getting a Hitch Fit experience. And we kind of had to chop that and go a different route. So, I mean, there's been a lot of things like that. And I think for us, it's always tried to, when we see something isn't working, it's like don't let it keep draining you. Just
be fluid.
If it's the time is done, it's okay. Take the lessons that you learned and then move on to the next thing, but don't hang on to things for too long when they're clearly not working.
Exactly.
We have been affected greatly so you have your everyday things, different employees and customers' expectations, that kind of stuff. But in our business, laws and regulations can have a huge effect. So we used to do, all of our marketing was telemarketing, and we had a huge telemarketing department with tons of employees, and the no-call list came around. And our marketing completely came to a halt, and we had to completely reinvent how our company would do marketing. So that was one. There have been several products over the last 30 years that have been removed. The EPA has removed them, and we've had to completely take a turn to use different products for something that we're trying to control. Then another huge turn for us was when we decided to become a part of the Weedman system in 2000, and we not only took our operation into being a franchise, but John and I are also franchisors, so we franchise in 7 states, which also led us to opening operations in different cities. So we personally are in 4 cities. We franchise in 7 states. Those were some major, major turns that we took.
So sometimes it's forced, right? Like you have outside factors that force you to do what you ladies do best, which is run your companies. And sometimes there are decisions if something's not working and you have to be willing to abandon something and that you invested money in and you invested time in because it's not the right direction. It's all easier said than done, like everything, right? Okay, so I'm going to go off script. Oh, snap. But it's a good question. So I had a question pop up that I would like to know the answer to today. So you guys run large organizations. So when you talked about, Selena, keeping things kind of on brand, like as you get bigger, and same with you, Diana, and same with you, Vic, as you guys get bigger, how do you keep the experience that consumers have with your companies consistent across all of these people and all of these, like how do you drive that? Because it starts with you. It's your company. So what are some things that you can give advice to about how to create that authenticity and then scale that with other people? I'll start with you, Diana, because I think you guys do a good job of that.
I think that the thing we do at Hitch Fit is just we do a lot of mentoring with people before they come in. Like as personal trainers, like we won't just hire someone to be a personal trainer. Like it's not like a corporate gym where it's like, oh, you have a cert, come on in and train people. So trainers who are part of our system, they've usually gone through 2 to 4 months of just being in the gyms and mentoring and talking to people and really getting into the culture. So there's a lot more investment into these people before we trust them to like represent our brand, and it's kind of what we've done from the beginning. And I think Micah and I try to be present in the gyms too, just to keep the culture. There's been times over the year that the culture has gone off what it was supposed to be, and we had to make changes so that it got back to what it was supposed to be, which is a place that people walk into and they feel welcome and they feel listened to and they feel like this is a place where their success is a big deal. So it's something you have to constantly work on, because it's our brand, it's our baby, and not everybody else doesn't. It's not their baby, so you really have to kind of keep a close eye on things and make sure that it's that everybody's on point. And we've had what I call pruning seasons. So sometimes if it's going the wrong way, sometimes things got to be pruned. And that might be people and things, but if you got to prune back so that there's new growth that goes consistently with what your brand is and your vision, then that's what you have to do, and don't be afraid of that either.
So in our operation, over the years that this has taken many different shapes, but today what we have is we have a management team that takes a lot of our information. And I noticed that my son came in the room. He's in the back against the wall there.
He loves it when his mom points him out and everybody turns. He's really excited about that. Good job, you.
And he does a phenomenal job of working with our management team. And what we do is, so we have a thing called podcasts, and our podcasts are our management team, and then the next layer of assistant managers, that type of thing. But what they do is they take a subject matter every month, and that team will work on how to solve it. So one of our subject matters was the customer experience. And so we pull this whole team together and talk about, let's analyze what our customer experience is for a customer that is within our bounds. What do they get on the phone? What do they get when they talk to the sales staff? What do they get when the production team is out at their house? What do they get when they call in with a concern or express something online? So we went through all of that. We do customer surveys and that type of thing. So we gathered all that information. The team addressed all of that, and we have task forces that actually work on the customer experience and maintaining all of that with statistical data, and then making sure that goes out to all of our satellites, because we're like in Fort Worth, Texas, we're in Des Moines, Iowa, Springfield, Missouri, and then here. And so making sure that all of that, whatever we put in place, goes out to all those operations. And so he is a very integral part of running all of that and putting that together. So
that's very cool.
So I'd like to say I came up with it and I look really good from it, but it's really him. If he wasn't here, I'd take credit. Dang.
I hear ya.
My biggest thing I would say is probably feedback. Like, I would ask for it before it was given. I don't wait for it. At Julian, everybody that came in for whom I had an email address, I would email them the next day and say, thanks for visiting, blah, blah, blah. If you have any feedback, I would love to hear it. It helps me with training. Because I always say I can't fix what I don't know. So if people just walk out the door, I had a table one time and I asked, and a guy started telling me, and he's all of a sudden abruptly stopped. I was like, no, seriously, I want to know, because I want to know how I can make your experience better next time, or if I can fix it right now, or whatever. Started telling me again, and abruptly stopped again. I'm like, his wife was kicking him under the table and not letting him tell me, which I was standing there and asking for a reason, because I want to know. If you want to tell me something crappy, knock yourself out. But I can't. I've got to hear all the feedback. So encourage people to give you feedback, whether you like it or not. You need to know.
Oh my gosh, that's everything. Oh yeah, girl, you do. Yeah. Bring it.
How have you defined these things that you're trying
So these would be like your core values, right? So, or something like that. Whatever it is that you're starting the company for. And again, with scale and as you grow, and one person's one person, but two people is like 20. So how do you keep that consistent, right? And that goes into your core values of who you're training, or the customer experience, or the kind of food and restaurant experience you want people to have, right? So I guess is the question, can I ask the question, like, is it core values? Is that what you're, like, how do you define your business core values?
How do you keep your, as your business grows, how do you keep it within your brand, but have you defined your brand? How do you define what it is you're trying to keep within? And how do you communicate that to all the people, that this is what our brand is? Is it written out? Is it just communicated verbally? Is it training? Is it, how is that?
Yes. It's
Yes.
it's literally all of that. So it's training, it's writing things out. It's sometimes, like I said, this is a learning curve, and those values change, or the way you can do something changes, and maybe something I do naturally, I have to write down, like how somebody should answer the phone, or how they should answer a guest if they ask a question, or whatever. Not everything is, comes to somebody the same way as it would to me, and the reaction. So, if somebody comes in and says, can I scoot these two tables together? And the bartender says, yes. Well, that's not how I would say it. The answer would be like, sure, of course. If you give me 1 minute, I'm happy to come help you. So sometimes you just have to train after seeing these things. That literally just happened last night. And you have to you have to address it in a timely manner, so they know what you're talking about and can relate the experience, and it's fresh in their mind how their actions may have been perceived by somebody else, or not perceived, or whatever. So
Yeah, and it's kind of everything. Like, I have binders that, like, for each of our trainers, like, that are new coming, I have binders that are like, here's what, like, when you get a lead, here's the flow, like, here are the things you're saying, like, here's the flow, so that everybody's kind of on the same flow. But it's the same. I mean, there's always things that come up that I'm like, well, gotta put that in the binder. We gotta put that so there's always something new that I'm like, oh, I guess I didn't communicate that clearly enough, so we gotta add that in. And everybody's a little different. Everybody's gonna have different personalities and a little different style, but I just want them all in the same wheelhouse so that everybody's getting a consistent experience.
So, and yes, to answer your question, I think it is sitting down and defining what you are looking for, how you want to give off the information. When we have employee handbooks, we sit down, our management team works on scripts. So it might become the time when you need grub control, and so we have 5 people, 6 people that are calling out on grub control, and we want the same message to be going out to all of the customers the same way, and so they work on scripts so that everyone is saying the same things. If somebody's calling in and saying, what's the right mowing height? Well, everybody might think of that it's something different, but from our perspective, this is what we think of as a company. This is the right mowing height for this grass type. This is the right mowing height for this grass. So the message is always the same, hopefully. And if not, pruning needs to take place. I love that. So yes, but it's defining it, having a mission statement, having your core values, and we do have a big superhero with the mission statement and the right products, the right vision, the right people, doing the right things because it's the right thing to do. And so we always try to take everything back to our mission statement.
It's also all about the people you have part of your company. I am a terrible manager of people. I am a pretty good leader. And that's important for me to know as a leader of my organization, because what I have found is that if I have to get into the weeds and really manage and meticulously write down everything you should be saying, we're not the right people for each other. So everyone who works for me is smarter than me, and they are more talented than I am. And that's what I'm looking for, because I can lead them and I can lead us to whatever, but I can't manage you day to day. So that's me personally, which is different from, Vic, making sure that every lawn experience is the same. So it's different for different companies. I run a tech company, so, all right, so we're moving on. Okay. What is... hindsight's 20/20, and now that we've been doing this for like a minute or two, What is the one thing, if you had to look back on it, that you would have changed? And we can all say that, look, everything got us to where we are today and all of that, but there are some things I would have done just differently early on. So, Vic, I'll start with you. Like, if you had it to do over again, what would you do differently this time around?
Okay, this is pretty funny because I was actually talking to John about this question last night, because I am a big proponent of things happen for a reason and in a good time and all of that kind of stuff. And John immediately said, I would have been more aggressive. Okay, that so wouldn't have been me. And so I kind of laughed about that because I think he would have. And I got to thinking about it and I said, no, I don't think you would have been more aggressive because I was the one dragging my heels the entire 35 years on all this stuff. He would say, let's do this. And I'd be like, slow down a little bit. So the one thing I think I would have done differently is we have always been members of the community as far as economic development, chamber, all of that kind of stuff. We've always been members, but active members, we were not. And so because we were, a two-man operation and there was no time to get involved in that stuff, I wish we had been active members in the community sooner. That's one thing.
What did that change for you?
Back in 2008, I was asked to co-chair the strategic plan for the city of Lee Summit. And I had become more involved slowly. That was one of those where I got thrown in both feet, just go girl. So, but what that did for us, and if you think about it, if any of your kids have ever worked for us, because we do have high school kids that work for us, if your 15-year-old daughter, 16-year-old daughter came to you and said, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm going to go work for the Weed Man, you would go, hell no, you would not. You are not. But now that I've been involved in the community and I know so many of you personally, if your daughter came home or your son and said, hey, we're going to go work at the Weed Man, you might say something more along the lines of, oh my gosh, they've got a great company and they teach you how to overcome objectives, and this is an awesome place for you to go as a high school student. So that made a huge difference in a turning point for our business of getting involved in the community like that. So hell yes, your kid will come to work for us.
You don't sell pot, is what you're saying.
No, we don't.
I felt like
this has nothing to do with any of that. But it's a great name, isn't it? It's a good. We do leave a bag on every door. That would be grass seed.
Fantastic.
Wow. Let's see. Yeah, I get, it's like there's a lot of things that I wish that we had known, but then, I can always see that we've learned lessons from things. I would say the one thing would be our second location, because Micah and I took something that we were really passionate about and then had to figure out how do we make this a business that we can actually scale and, make money on. And so we weren't business people coming in and then starting something. It was so we had the learning curve of how do we take this thing that we love and make it into a business. So like contracts of like leases wasn't something that we were really like versed on. So our second gym that we opened, we kind of got run over a little bit in our lease, and we didn't find that out till a couple years later. And then we found out there was all these other things we should have asked and we should have included. So then on our next gym, it is like ironclad. We asked for everything. Our landlords were like, "Oh, you guys got run over a little bit," and we were like, "Yes." So we learned, so that now it was a learning curve. But if I could go back and protect ourselves a little bit more and ask more questions and ask for more things in that contract, that's what I would do.
Ask all the questions. Yeah. Every question.
All the questions.
In my case, when I opened Julian, I just wanted to get it open, and we only started with dinner hours. And then later on, we opened for lunch. You're better off waiting 2 more weeks and opening with all of your hours, because to add it on later is extremely difficult, because all the people that came in, which is usually a lot in the beginning, knew that we weren't open for lunch. So to get that word out after the fact. So it's easier to scale back, which I did in the Belfry. Started with opening at 7 a.m. and then I just took it away. It's easier to do that than to try to tell people later that, no, we are open for lunch.
So you guys remind me of two more business quotes, and then I'm going to open it up to all of you and shut up. The first of which is that if you haven't yet, a book I highly recommend is called The E-Myth. It's the Entrepreneurial Myth. And Diana made me think of it because she and Micah are the exception to this rule. And the rule is that sometimes we're really passionate about this thing that we love to do. And in the book, the woman likes to make apple pies. So she starts a business to do the thing that she really loves, which is making apple pies. But what she doesn't realize is that now she's running a business, and she's not making apple pies every day. She's dealing with legal contracts and HR and all these things. And that's the entrepreneurial myth, that you're going to be doing the thing you love, but really you're running a business. And so if you love making pies, you should have someone else run the business and you make the pies. Anyway, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is that as a small business, you can make decisions and be nimble and change things every day if you want. But your market is much more slowly adopted to that. So even though you change your hours, the marketing and everything that has to go into then telling everyone else about your change is different. So you have to really think through those changes before you make them. And this is when I shut up. So would anyone else like to ask these lovely ladies some questions as we open it up? And then, Ash, do we have a microphone to, or, I mean, I have one, but not everybody at once. We didn't drink enough wine, y'all.
You guys can answer this. Like, how has the digital social media way changed business in the last, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years?
I think we don't have a microphone.
So what John asked was, how has social media changed things in the last 3 to 5 years?
Go ahead.
Well, we started Hitch Fit. We
started in the social media world.
started when it was like MySpace days. No, but we relied on it. Social media was just becoming a thing when we started. I met Mike on MySpace. Like, that's how we met. So different story, different day, but
Different panel discussion.
different panel. But we had no money when we started Hitch Fit. Like, we literally were living in an attic. And so we had to, social media was something we dived right into because it was a free way to start getting the word out about our business. And so, but we've had to learn a lot because it's changed so much, because MySpace was huge and you could like send friend requests to like thousands of people a day and there was no cap on anything. And then MySpace went down, and then it was Facebook, and then it was Instagram, and it was Pinterest and YouTube. And so trying to, always stay one step ahead of things. So it's something we've always had to stay on top of, because that's how we grew and started Hitch Fit. We didn't have money. We had to rely on just being able to, being able to share transformation stories and get word out that way. So it's changed it hugely.
Part of her business is online training. So,
Yeah.
you use.
We had to, and we grew. Hitch Fit is in 74 countries globally, and we did that all. And it's just Micah and I that we still control all of that stuff as far as putting stuff out on every social media. And you can't, the other thing with social media is that we learned early on, you can't rely on just one platform, because if all your stuff is on one platform and suddenly the next big thing comes along, then you're stuck. So we've always tried to have a presence across, organically on Google and on Instagram. Like, we didn't even know what Pinterest was, and then one day one of the transformations had 40,000 pins, and I was getting these emails and signups of people that were, I'm like, where'd you hear about us? Pinterest. I'm like, what is Pinterest? What is this thing? And so it's just always just trying to keep a handle on all of
So
it.
you always have to evolve to the next
Always.
thing. You on
Yeah.
I don't
TikTok,
know
girl?
what Pinterest
Yeah.
is about.
That's next.
I still don't
Okay,
even
I don't have a
understand
Pinterest account either.
I need a lesson on Pinterest. That one, I just cannot wrap my head around that one.
Well, we have so many it's so many transformation pictures. So that's makes sense for us, because we have such a photo heavy. That's how people spread the word. For food, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, so I opened Julian, and I kind of engaged people from the start on Twitter and Facebook, and then now Instagram. So I would post a picture of stainless steel and a picture of some big white tiles and say which one should be on the walls of the kitchen, and then people would respond. So I would try and be engaging then. Should I use these chairs or these chairs? And, just kind of get the engagement and get all the hype up before. It was probably 3 months before we even opened, just kind of asking questions like that.
So you engage the community in the restaurant by giving them kind of a a social, yeah, that's really cool. That's awesome. Other questions?
Are there any business courses or resources that you use along the way that, I mean, community involvement, but like specifically, Selena, you said you really like to learn. Did you guys end up going to classes to try to figure out how to sign contracts better, or did you just start outsourcing that stuff?
I'm a learner by doing, so I just kind of jump in there and try and figure it out first myself. That's how I've done it. I would recommend classes. Just because I didn't take them doesn't mean I wouldn't recommend them. I would. Like anytime, I have a friend that started his business consulting. I sent him an email that I got through QuickBooks that said it was a free 4-hour course on whatever, and so he signed up for that and just took whatever free course he could. So if you're going to do your own bookkeeping, you just take advantage of anything that's free. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I would say being a part of the velocity. Everything is at your fingertips because you are able to ask questions of people that have the experience and been there before. So getting involved in groups like that can help you, or you can just marry your opposite and you become a well-rounded business person by default. Oh no, that's all the vision right there, and then I put all the boxes around it for years, put all the boxes around it for us, and he was off creating the next vision while I was still trying to box up the last one. But definitely keep learning. Now, with the online presence, you can practically go through something just going through a tutorial online and learning how to do things like that. But something like this, I think, where you can actually access humans that can give you some of those pointers as you go along.
Yeah, we didn't. I didn't necessarily take classes, but we were very blessed to have a lot of great mentors early on. And so when HitchFit was 3, when we hit our 3-year anniversary, we actually got into HEMP, the Helzberg Entrepreneurial Mentoring Program, and that was huge for us because suddenly, we're like, yay, we love fitness, we're doing something we love, what do we do now? And they literally embraced us and took us in, and I mean, we took full advantage of that program, and we met so many incredible people. So and that's a group, it's kind of like Women Who Mean Business. If you have an issue, you can say, I have this issue, and there is a book full of the names and numbers of all incredibly successful entrepreneurs in the Kansas City area from across the board in every aspect of business you can imagine. You can pick up the phone and call them and say, I need help. And I can't even tell you how many people early on, we were like, well, what about this? And they would take us into their office and literally sit and speak with us for 2 to 3 hours as if they had nothing else to do in the day. And so they poured so much into us, and that's why we're still a part of that program, and anybody that is new coming in, we'll do that for them because it was so huge for us. And also to realize that all these entrepreneurs, we all had the same issues. We were all going through the same challenges. Our industries were a little bit different, but for me it was this big sigh of relief of, oh, this is normal. This is what happens when you start a business, and then these are the things that you can keep doing. So I think Kansas City community is amazing for entrepreneurs and for business owners because there's so many resources, whether it's the chambers, if you can get involved with an organization like HEMP. Women Who Mean Business has been huge. I mean, that's how we all met, but it's just another way of just being able to reach out, and people are so willing to help in this community, which I love.
Right. I meant to say that earlier. So all 3 of these have been inducted by Kansas City Business Journal as Women Who Mean Business. And I was going to ask the question, was what has been the most powerful thing that's come out of that honor, being a Women Who Mean Business, and with the Business Journal, and to kind of what you were saying now, what doors you have opened, or what network or what influences has come out of that has helped you out? I don't know if that helps or not.
Everybody is so super supportive of each other, and it's the one thing is obviously you gain tons of friends and build relationships and everything, but beyond that, everybody is, like Diana said, is so extremely helpful. You have this already vetted list of amazing people. Like, there's a huge vetting process to be part of this group and to be inducted into Women Who Mean Business. So the process has already been done. You don't have to like go onto Angie's list or whatever to, you know, scale it down and narrow the field. Like, this is the field. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't fully understand what Women Who Mean. I don't think any of us fully understood what it was. It was, you know, you knew there would be networking, but I mean, I remember my very first experience, and I was like, I remember I went like this and said, "Hey, do you work out?" And then we were just friends. But I did that. That's how we met. I was like, "Do you work out?" But I think it was how interested people were in what you were doing, and interested they were in what your journey was, and interested in how they could help you. I mean, the support is unbelievable, and it's like it's one of the best things for me that's happened as far as being a business owner in Kansas City, is being able to be a part of that group. Not just the friendships, but just the support in not even just your business, but in every aspect of your life too.
So it kind of gave us 450 women who own businesses or work in business. We have a closed Facebook page, and the questions, it is every day there's something on there where somebody says, "Hey, I have a great employee, we've had to change doing something and I no longer can keep that employee, would recommend highly, is anybody looking for someone with these qualifications?" Or, "I'm looking for someone with these qualifications." Or, "Does anybody know anybody that does this kind of a business?" And it is just everybody jumping in, and somebody will say, "Hey, I do that, love to help, you know, message me offline or something." But the network is absolutely phenomenal, and the doors that it has opened of just meeting people and listening to their journey can help us to cut off some things that we might have tried or might have done that someone else has tried and has a better plan. So it has really been something that's been amazing to be a part of.
The biggest thing for that group, and most groups, or literally anything, is you get out what you put in.
Yeah, it's true.
I was going to ask, how do you anticipate trends and either try to figure out how to ride them or fight them?
I'm always usually about ride the wave. You can't, that stuff's too powerful to like try to fight it. So.
And how do you anticipate them, though? Or do you research? Do you?
No, well, for me, I just go all over the country and eat and drink, and it's really a lovely thing.
We feel
But
very
that's
sorry
part of,
for
that's
you.
part
That
of my
sounds terrible.
R&D.
I'm sorry that happened to you.
Yeah. So I can easily see, but the beauty is like one, I can, like, we're a small business, I can change my menu on a dime. If I put a dish on today, I can take it off tomorrow and reprint the menu, or I could verbal it or whatever. So I'm super fluid. And also I kind of created my concept, and this is very specific to the restaurant, is the only requirement for any of the food on there, there's no theme. I mean, there's fancy dishes, there's a burger, there's ramen, so I can follow any trend I want personally. So it's like I didn't put myself in a box of saying I only do this. And, you know, it's like, all right, a mission tacos. All you ever do is tacos or whatever. So I've never put myself in a box, so I can always change and be fluid, because that's important.
And what she does is phenomenal. Yes.
Delicious.
So for us, it is maybe some surveys. We ask customers with surveys a couple of times a year what they're looking for, what they're satisfied with, what we could do better. I would say our trends are not as don't change as easily. Ours is agronomic, so it's whatever, you know. Our change comes from what God throws at us in a year, you know, whether it's too much water or not enough not enough sunshine, not enough heat. So our trends kind of go on that type of a thing. But what customers want, for us is probably something that is trend, whether you're charging for this, whether you're throwing it in for free, whether it's part of your program, those kinds of things. So I would say we try to get our information out of surveys.
Yeah, and a big thing for us is always SEO and social media. So we're always kind of trying to keep an eye out on, because there'll be new social medias that pop up. Is that going to be a good fit for us? Is that something we need to start getting involved in? And then if you do get involved in it, what's the best way to grow on that platform? So, and there's a lot of stuff you can, just kind of stay on top of as far as, like what is what Google likes changes a lot. So we have to keep track of that, and then make changes to our sites and stuff so that Google still likes us. And I mean, that's probably our biggest thing. The fitness industry, obviously, there's always new things that come and go, but at Hitch Fit, it's more there's many different ways you can work out, and so for that side of things, it's what we do more is help people change mentally. And so if I can get someone to change their mind about their habits and their lifestyle, then the eating and exercise thing is kind of secondary to that. So I don't worry too much about what the latest workout is or anything like that, because what we do is more a transition of how people are thinking.
I want to say one thing that I would say that probably what we all have in common as small business owners and entrepreneurs is never do we say we have to go to work. I always say I'm going to the Belfry. So if it is when you get there is work, then maybe that's not the right route.
And if you're following a trend, you probably are a trend too. That's what we always say in my business. Like, if you're following the trends, you are a trend. So you need to be careful always following the next trend, I guess.
Like, I thought, when are those axe throwing places going to close? Because they cannot, that is not viable,
You're like,
right?
that is not a sustainable business.
Leagues. It's all about the leagues.
Yeah, that sounds awful.
Noted. No one's going to run out and start an axe throwing business tomorrow. All right, so if there are no more questions, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. I'm going to thank the ladies for their time today, which we all know is so precious, and the fact that you shared it with us today, I'm very grateful for. And that you guys were here today. I hope you maybe got a little tidbit of something that you're going to go back into your businesses, or maybe you'll start your business tomorrow. But I hope you got something out of this. And so enjoy Entrepreneurship, Global Entrepreneurship Week. Enjoy the rest of your week, and thank you. Have some wine and chocolate.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.